Welcome to Secrets of Stand-Up Comedy. I'm Richard Francis Williams. Call me Rich. I'm going to tell you everything I know about stand-up so you can be the best possible comedian you can be. I hope you subscribe to the channel, all that nonsense. Should you talk about politics in your act? It depends, like most things. First of all, I would never say limit yourself. Of course, if you want to talk about politics, talk about politics. If you're passionate about it, talk about politics. I'm going to also caution you as to why you might not want to do that. So I watched some of Mark Maron's recent special, and he's making the rounds on the podcast talking about his political views. And I've always admired Mark Maron. I think he's a great comic. And I have a funny story, which I'll tell at the end if I remember. Mark Maron, Bill Maher, there's a few comics where it's not so much with Mark Maron. Bill Maher, he just talks politics, pretty much. Mark Maron talks about politics, but then he talks about his own life and his frustrations with being a human and all that type of stuff. It works for them. They divide their audience to some degree because if you're super MAGA or Republican, you're probably not going to like hearing some of that material. So they're famous enough that they draw their own audience. People don't accidentally go to a Mark Maron show. They don't, at the clubs, people will go to a comedy club, and based on the reputation of the club, they'll go and see any comedian performing there. Mark Maron's not one of those types. Obviously, he's very famous. Same with Bill Maher. There's been a lot of political comics throughout the years, but even when famous, they're drawing from a more limited group of people that might be fans of the show. If you look at The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson famously made fun of both parties. He would make fun of Democrats and Republicans, and he wasn't overly political, intentionally. He didn't want to alienate anybody. So now let's talk about people who are probably watching this video, comics that are starting out. That seems to be the majority of you, my audience, as small but strong as you are. Let's say you have 10 minutes of material, okay? And you have two jokes about politics, whether it's pro-Trump or anti-Trump, whatever it is. Those two jokes, in my opinion, are not worth alienating potentially half the crowd. And depending on where you live and where you perform, if you live in a very liberal area, they're not going to want to hear anti-liberal jokes. If you live in a very Republican area, they're not going to want to hear anti-Republican jokes. So we have to live in reality. Again, if you're passionate about it, do it. But here's my recommendation. If you're going to be a political comedian, be a political comedian. Really do it. Don't just have 2 or 3 jokes or 5 minutes on politics. Make that kind of a centerpiece of your act. Certainly have other material in there, but become known for that. Jimmy Dore is another one. He started on and I'm not trying to pick fights by miscategorizing anybody. I'm just going by a gut instinct. Jimmy Dore seemed like he was very far left, and he's drifted more to the center. Some people accuse him of being right-wing now. I don't agree with that, but he was a political comedian. Prior to that, he did the marijuana logs. So he started out as more of a typical mainstream comedian. Then he got into politics, doing the Young Turks, probably numerous other things that I don't follow everybody's career. And now he has the Jimmy Dore show. So when he goes out, his comedy is a reflection of his show that's on YouTube and Spotify and all that type of stuff. It's so funny. I always worry that like one of these people are going to watch this. Like I've met Jimmy Dore. We have mutual friends and stuff. Like he's going to watch it and go, I also started on Air America. Like, why didn't you put that in? Like nobody cares. He's not going to do that. But I'm weird. I'm idiosyncratic. So the point is, if you want to be a political comedian, really be that. And the jokes have to kind of make sense. There were a lot of comics in Trump's first term that were just going up and kind of venting about Trump, and the audience would clap instead of laugh. You probably know what I'm talking about. And that's not really entertaining to most people. I mean, yeah, people were riled up at the time and they wanted to hear their beliefs said back to them by a comic, but you need jokes. It can't just be, I hate this guy because he's a moron. Oh, yeah. You're a comic, first and foremost. So make sure the jokes really get across what you're trying to say. Have a point. And make them funny, obviously, but it has to be more than just preaching to the choir, in my opinion. It has to be funny. Likewise, if you're on the other side, not even on the other side, but the comics that worried about censorship, which I believe was a very real thing in the last probably 8 years, the comics were getting canceled all over the place. People were protesting shows. I mean, you can go back and Google it. Venues were getting death threats and stuff, and comics couldn't perform there. People were getting shows canceled. That era is pretty much over, it seems like to me. So if you're starting out, or if you're relatively new, or even if you've been doing this for a while, the jokes about being canceled, or doing the Trump impression, even if it's positive, it seems passé. Shane Gillis does a great one, and he's kind of known for it, so that gets a pass, but it won't for you. Everybody can do a Trump voice now. Does that make sense? You've probably seen it at your open mic, 4 or 5 people doing the Trump impression. It's like, all right, we get it. He talks like this, and he moves his hands, whatever. So my advice to you, stay away from politics if you can. Stay away from religion if you can, unless that's your thing. But there's no need when you're starting out to alienate the crowd or other comics or venues. And I want to really stress this. I'm not telling you can't do it. I firmly believe there shouldn't be restrictions on comics. We're telling jokes. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Comics should be free to say whatever they want. However, from a realistic standpoint, you want to give yourself the best possible shot at being successful, having your material work and building an audience. It's the same advice I would give you with doing blue material, sexual material, things that are inappropriate, for polite audiences. If you can work clean, you're going to have way more opportunities. Can you work dirty? Of course, I do. I talk about a lot of controversial stuff. But that's the path that I chose. And I do it, I think, pretty well. And that's where my mind goes when I write material. But if you're starting out, you have to think about the longevity. This is a career. It's not just one set. So that's my advice on that. Quick Mark Maron story. I was on the road. I think it was Lincoln, Nebraska. No, not Lincoln, Nebraska. I forget where it was. Somewhere in the Midwest. I was working with Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong. The second night, or maybe the third or fourth night, it was a Saturday, the big pack shows. He brought his wife along with him. She was going to be the feature act, so I got bumped from the show. They still paid me, the Funny Bone. They were great. I hear on the radio that Mark Maron is going to be performing at the other club in town. And this was in like 98. I loved Mark Maron. So I have the night off. I'm getting paid. I drive to the other club. Well, There was another comic at the time named Mark Maron. I misheard the advertisement, the commercial on the radio. So I'm there looking for Mark Maron. It's this guy, Mark Maron. I don't know that he still does comedy. I haven't looked him up, but obviously there's a big difference. Then they tell me I can go up at the club, and I'm like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm working at the other club. And those owners were in a rivalry with the Funny Bone, so they went back and got word back to the manager at the Funny Bone that I went to their club and I went on stage, and I got chewed out. And I said, that's not true. I thought Mark Maron was going to be there. It was Mark Moran. They asked me to perform. I said, absolutely not. And, I didn't know that there was this rivalry. I wouldn't have gone to the club, and I won't ever do that again. And it all worked out, but I've chatted with Mark a few times. My buddy's really good friends with him. He was on an episode of WTF. I only mention that because hopefully he'll watch this. Hello, Matt B. Davis. All right, that's it. If you want to do a one-on-one session with me where I punch up your material, I go through your material with you over the phone, it's for an hour. I'll watch your video. I'll look at your material. Oh, Willie and Bingo say hi. Send me an email, richwilliamscomedy@gmail.com. It's $75 for the hour. If it goes longer than an hour, I'm not going to charge you extra. It's a lot of fun for me to do, and I charge a nominal fee because I was doing it for free in the beginning, but I can't spend all my time doing that. I have other things I have to do, like make more videos. I'll see you next time.